my name is Megan Hutson, and I'm a homework consultant representing BJU Press Homeschool. When you ordered your parent-led textbook kit for the 5th edition of K-5 Math, you received both a Math Manipulative packet and the Homeschool Visual packet. You may be wondering what you can do to help organize these now to make it easier for you to grab and go when you are teaching this course. So in this video, we're going to talk about different ways to organize these materials. Let's start by organizing the Student Manipulative packet. Just a reminder, at the beginning of this packet, there is a preparation list. Just keep this in mind as you begin punching parts out. So with that, let's start organizing our packet. Overall, punching out took me a little bit less than 30 minutes, but now that we have all these pieces separated, let's go ahead and start organizing. This is Farmer Brown, Mrs. Brown, and Cheddar. They are our stick puppets. You can add a popsicle stick to the back if you would like to, or you can just leave them like this and use them as is. I put all of the counters into the same bag. I can pull them out as needed. This is the Farmer Brown clock. You can use a brad to attach his arms, and then you have a clock to use throughout the year. For the geometric shapes, I've actually split them into 5 separate bags. I kept the triangles, the squares, the circles, and the rectangles in separate bags. These are often going to be used for creating patterns, so it's a little bit easier if you can keep them separated. The others I just put into the same bag. I can pull those out as needed. These are the fraction cards. You have a circle, a square, and a triangle. I went ahead and kept all 3 of these in separate bags with each of their different fraction parts. These are the number cards, dot pattern cards, and sign cards, and I just put all of them into the same bag so I can grab them quickly. These are the rulers. You have inches and a centimeter ruler. You also have a ruler made out of paper clips, so I'm going to keep all 3 of these together. This is all the money. I just kept it in the same bag as well. This is the 10 bar. I'm going to keep this separate, and in case I forget what it's called, it is labeled on the back. This is my 100 block, my 10 strips, and my 1 squares. I'm going to keep all of these together in one section as well. Then I have the farm mat, which is labeled at the bottom, the field mat, the garden mat, and the pond mat, along with my hundreds chart, my tens and ones frame, and my hundreds frame. And I'm going to be putting these into sheet protectors. Now that I've got everything sorted and bagged, my preferred method for the manipulative packet is a binder. So everything is in this one spot. I can grab it when I'm ready to teach math, and then I'm ready to go. So this is the opposite side of the preparation guide. So it's a nice pretty picture. And then I've got Farmer and Mrs. Brown and Cheddar at the front, along with my mats, my chart, my hundreds, tens, and ones frames. I've got my Farmer Brown clock, my rulers and my 10 bar, my counters, my pattern shapes, my geometric shapes, all of my fraction pieces, my dot cards, my number cards, and my sign cards, my money kit, and then the 1 squares, 10 strips, and the 100 box. So this is what I prefer to do with the manipulative kit. Now let me show you an alternative. As an alternative to using Ziploc bags for all the small manipulatives, you could get yourself a divided container and sort each of the small items into its own section. If you did like having them sorted into Ziploc bags, you could easily get yourself a lunch meat container or a pencil case or another container like a shoebox and put those Ziploc bags into those containers. So the charts and the mats are probably a little bit more challenging to store because you probably don't want to fold them or bend them to put into those smaller containers. So let's look at some alternatives for storing these. One alternative would be to spiral bind down one side of the charts in order to create a flip chart. You could also use a large envelope or large Ziploc bag in order to keep those mats flat. If you were using this envelope or bag, you could also put all of your small manipulative bags into the larger bag and keep it all together. So these are some suggestions for organizing your student manipulative packet. Now that I'm done organizing my student manipulative packet, I'm going to start organizing my homeschool visuals. This is going to come in a shrink-wrapped binding, and it is loose cardstock cards. I'm going to start organizing by using this contents list on the back of the very first card. And I see that visual number 1 is my farm scene, which is actually 2 cards put together to make the farm. I'm going to put that into one pile. In that same pile, I'm going to add cards 2 through 12, and the numbers are printed down here in the bottom corner, to that same stack. So these are cards with numbers on them. I'm also going to include cards 13 through 17, which are different shapes, in that same pile. Card number 18 is my clock. I'm going to pull this aside for a separate pile. And then I'm going to pull out cards number 19, which is a calendar, 20, money, 21, measurement, and then 22, 23, 24, all the way until I get to my hundreds chart. I'm going to put these cards in my original pile. The next chart, number 25, is actually 3 parts, 25A, B, and C, and this is counting to 150 by ones. You could either put this in your original pile or set it to the side. For one of my children, I left this to the side so that I could use it as a wall hanging in our schoolroom, and then that way we could practice counting fairly often during our school day. I'm going to go ahead and put this to the side for this pile, but you could include that in your original pile. Charts 26 through 35, I'm also going to include in my original stack. That will take me by tens to 100. And then I have this biblical worldview shaping theme that I'm also going to include in my original pile. Now that I've separated my charts into multiple piles, I'm actually going to set this pile aside and go back to the initial pile I've just created. This stack of cardstock cards will be used fairly often when you're teaching kindergarten. So you want to be able to access the cards fairly quickly when you're teaching a lesson. Because of this, you want to make sure you're staying organized. There are a few options for ways to organize these cards. You could spiral bind down one side of the cards, either on the side or even on the top, and create a flip chart. Another option would be to put these cards into page protectors and then put them into a binder. And another option would be to get a travel expandable file folder and then put each of the cards into that folder. Just remember that whichever method you choose to organize these with, you want to make sure it's easily accessible to you because you're going to be using these cards fairly often when teaching your lessons. Now let's jump back to the other stack of cards. You may have noticed that the remaining cards in this stack are identical to the cards that you have in your student manipulative packet, including your clock from earlier. These cards are larger versions of your student manipulative packet. Because these are just larger versions of the same cards, you could put these aside and not use them if you wish to, or if you wanted to, you could cut them out and use them as well when you're teaching the lesson. So that wraps up my organizational tips for the K-5 Math 5th edition Student Manipulative Packet and the Homeschool Visuals. Thanks for joining me.